Today I'm going to show you how to make pasta with Alfredo sauce. This recipe serves 3 to 4 people. I'm going to be preparing mine for 1 to 2 people, but we'll only be speaking about the recipe for 3 to 4 people. You will need 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 clove of garlic minced, a half a cup of half and half, 1 cup of heavy cream, 1 to 1.5 cups of Parmesan cheese, fresh cracked black pepper, salt, about a tablespoon of minced parsley, and 1 pound of pasta. I chose to use fettuccine. You'll need a pot with about 1 gallon of boiling water, as well as a sauté pan to make your sauce. So let's start to boil our pasta. Your pasta needs to cook about 12 to 13 minutes, but you should always taste it to test if it is done. When the water comes to a boil, you will add your salt. Do not add your salt before the water comes to a boil, because if you add it before it starts to boil, it will take much longer time to come up to temperature. Salt actually raises the boiling point of the water, which makes it boil slower. Also, as you notice that I'm just laying the fettuccine into the pot. Sometimes people cut it in half. I find that it sticks together if you do that. So what I like to do is just lay it on the edge, and in about a minute, it becomes soft or pliable enough that all of the pasta will be right in the water, and it has less of a chance of the noodles sticking together. Just make sure you give them a stir every now and then, so when the water comes back up to a boil after you add the noodles, they're able to move around freely in the pot and not stick together. So while these are cooking, I'm going to make my sauce. The sauce is going to take about 7 or 8 minutes, so you want to have the sauce ready for when those noodles are ready, so you can add the noodles to the pot and eat right away. This dish is served best right out of the pot, nice and hot, because there's a high level of fat in it. If it gets too cold, it becomes very thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my butter, I'm going to melt it in the pan, and I'm going to add my garlic. I'm going to stir the garlic around so it gets coated with all of the fat. I'm working on an electric stove, so I have to make sure that the garlic stays more towards the middle of the pan. So that's why I am trying to move it more towards the center. The edges of the pan don't get as hot as the center does. So after about 30 seconds, I'm going to see that my garlic is bubbling and they're starting to cook. And I just want to make sure that I start the next stage before they start to brown. So make sure that you're careful at this point, because if they brown, they will start to burn, which means that you're going to have a bitter sauce. So now I'm going to add my heavy cream, making sure that I get every last drop out of my container. I'm going to stir it around a little bit, and then I'm going to add my half and half to the pot. Now I'm going to bring it up to a simmer, and I'm going to let it simmer for about 3 to 4 minutes until it gets nice and thickened. Okay, we want to reduce the sauce so that it has a nice body to it, nice and creamy. We don't want it to be very liquidy. We want it to be nice and creamy and thick. And it will get thicker as time goes on when we add our cheese, but we want to make sure that it's the right consistency from the beginning. Also, as it bubbles and reduces, it's concentrating the flavor. That cream is really getting that flavor from the garlic. After a few minutes of bubbling, you're going to check for the consistency of the sauce. If you can run your finger across the back of the spoon and you see that the sauce doesn't drip into the line that's formed, like you just saw above, that means that the sauce is at the right consistency. This consistency is called nappe, N-A-P-P-E, which means that it coats the back of the spoon. Now I add 1 cup of cheese. I'm going to lower my flame and I'm going to let it simmer. I don't want it to be at a full rolling boil, because it will become too thick if I do that. You just want to make sure that the cheese is able to melt, and when it has that little bit of heat, it will actually thicken the sauce. Once my sauce is nice and thickened and my pasta is just about ready, I'm going to test one of the noodles, okay? So in order to do this, you actually have to taste the noodle to see if it's ready, okay? You want to take it out when it is al dente, which means when you take a bite of it, it has a little bit of resistance, not much, like it tastes undercooked. You want to make sure that it's not mushy, too soft. So I'm going to take one noodle out, I'm going to taste it, and if it's ready, I'm going to get those noodles right into my sauce. As you notice, I'm not draining this pasta. I'm actually taking the pasta out of the pot because I want to leave a little bit of this pasta water just in case my sauce gets too thick. Okay? You want to make sure that you have a low flame underneath the pasta at this point because you want to make sure that this dish stays hot. And just toss the noodles with the sauce. You're going to taste the sauce. You're going to season with some fresh ground black pepper. You're going to add a little bit of salt if needed. And you're going to also garnish with your minced parsley. Not too much minced parsley, just enough to give it color throughout the dish. You're going to save a little bit of that and some Parmesan cheese for the top of your dish to garnish. Okay? Now we're going to get ready to plate our fettuccine Alfredo. And you want to do this right from the pan and serve it immediately so that whoever's eating this can enjoy a nice, delicious dish of fettuccine Alfredo. You may want to adjust for consistency also. So I'm going to add actually a ladle of pasta water to the dish. Now we save the pasta water because the pasta water actually has the salt, the flavor of the pasta, and it's not going to dilute the sauce in any way. So I add about 3 to 4 ounces of that hot liquid to my pan, stir it in, and then I feel like it's at the right consistency to serve. I'm going to use my tongs to grab my fettuccine and just kind of swirl it into your plate to serve. Right, so this is about enough for 3 to 4 people to eat. If you wanted to add some proteins, you can add them directly to the pot, or you can lay them right on the top of the dish. You can add shrimp, you can add chicken, any kind of other seafood that you'd like, maybe salmon, and serve it as a very hearty meal. Hope you enjoyed this recipe of fettuccine Alfredo. Remember, you can use any shaped pasta that you like, but we prefer the ribbon-shaped pasta. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell for notifications for when we post new videos.